Hello, friends, and welcome to the space where we discuss business, landscaping, beer, and everything in between. I'm your host, Heather Gerard from My Landscape Artist here in London, Ontario, Canada. And this is Season 2 of Hops and Hedges. Stay tuned after each episode for a message from our sponsor, ext.tech. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now crack open a cold one, and let's dig in. There we go. With me today, the one and only Bob Allen, retired. You've been around for a long time. Bob, I am so grateful that you've taken the time to talk with me today on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
I don't even know where to start with you because you are just a wealth of information, knowledge, and expertise. Your company was the Bob Allen Horticultural Services. Is that out of St. Thomas? Am I mixing this up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Born and raised here.
Born and raised in St. Thomas, Ontario. Excellent. And so you had the company running for 45 years. Is that right?
Yeah, 44. Yeah, somewhere between there.
Holy smokes. I'm in year 5.
Well, you haven't even got the paint dry on your truck yet.
I don't even have a truck yet. My work truck is a Honda Civic.
Oh, wow.
So we're trucking along. So Bob, could you, for myself included, because I don't know you personally, but I'd love to know kind of your origin story. So on the show, I often talk about us in the green profession or industry as a bit of horticultural heroes, if you will. And all superheroes have an origin story. So I'm wondering, where did this all start for you?
I guess back, my grandparents lived about a block from us, and I was the oldest grandson. And so once I was able to walk the block and a half or whatever, back in those days, they had a big garden with the potatoes and all the rest, and carried on there. And then as I grew up, my grandfather passed away. And so my grandmother was still there. So I ended up cutting the grass and doing the stuff there and whatnot. And then it moved on and whatever. It actually went through high school to be an electrician. And when I got out, there were no jobs. There were nothing. It was back in the mid 60s. There were no jobs. And so it worked out, and I did some things and ended up going back to, went to Humber College in 68, 69. Yeah. When they started the program there, that was in the first class of the landscape program at Humber College. And we had to get a job, supposed to in the summer between the first year and the second year. And they just opened the Ford plant in Tulbeville at St. Thomas. So the company that had done it was McLean, Peaster and Kitchener, and they had a note up at the school, and I'd come home on the weekends. So I stopped in there, and Glenn Peaster said, "Where do you live?" I said, "St. Thomas." He said, "You're hired." And in those days, you couldn't. He said, "Because we don't know the weather, we'll pay you a salary." And that summer was so dry that everything dried up to a crisp. And those days there was no transplanting of plants because they weren't bulb and burlapped in those days. You did them bare root. So that kind of thing. So I got paid to play around the Ford plant for the whole summer. And so the big guys, they came in on the Friday and get the big areas, but I had to keep the litter picked up in the gardens and whatever. And those days, there were no weed eaters. Clip the edges around that building with a pair of clippers.
Whoa.
Some of them the hockey stick style and the others just the hand ones. And that's how you did it. There were no string trimmers.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. So anyway, we got back to school and for the second year, and very few were able to stay in the field in the summer because it was so dry. So what'd you do? Oh, well, that. And they had their own sewage plant there, so we used to go back and play cards in the morning because there's so much to do.
Yeah.
And fortunately, those days it wasn't. So if I needed to go from one side of the plant to the other, I just walked through the plant. I didn't care one way or the other.
Yep.
And got back, and after that, finished up the second year, and wanted to come back this way, and went over to Western University, and they said, "Well, we're not hiring any weight right now, but excuse me, we'll keep your name on file. And about 2 weeks later, they called and said, yeah, you got a job. Somebody had left and they were moving people around. So I started the crew, and then within 2 months or whatever it was, Big Cheese left. So they moved up, and I was only one of the few that could speak English. So I ended up as a foreman after about 2 months.
Oh boy.
Spent some time there, and then Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, they were just getting started. So they were here in town, so I applied there and became their first employee, and spent a couple of years there and annoyed a few people with the fill regulations. Well, you can't tell me not to put fill in the ravine. You want to bet? A couple of people tried it. They went to court. They lost.
Yep.
And yeah, spent some time with sifting homes, and into that one, I ended up doing a lot of work when they were repairing the drainage and stuff after the new houses. So that got to be a real trick and peel off their stuff, and went off to that and ended up, that was driving back and forth to London. And the same thing in those days. They didn't build houses in the winter. So goodbye, we might see you in the spring. So I ended up just a job for the winter, and then we drove around town and looked around and said, you know what, let's jump in and see what's going on. So we did, and we ended up with enough customers that summer to carry on, and it worked. And there was another fellow, Don Pierce. He was the second generation, and he was the only other guy in town. So we had he did all the big factories. We had no competition for the things, that people were just starting into the housing piece. Yeah. So we were able to pick up lots of stuff and go on from there. And it worked out, and we just grew from there and carried on and whatever. So we ended up, there was, we were doing some places, and one of them was an engineering firm. And guy come out, he said, I want you to come in and meet some people. So it was half-assed raining that day, and wasn't the cleanest boots and hands. Went in, and there's a table full of blue suits, and there were some investors from Toronto, and they were buying a strip mall, and they had a landscape plan, and they wanted to, can you do this or whatever? And I looked at it, and whoever had drawn it, in the middle of a parking lot, they had put a great big wooden planter with a light to light the parking lot, and put Austrian pine on a corner that you couldn't see. Well, that won't work or whatever. Well, you come up with something. So I did, and the guy came and he looked at it. He said, yeah. And he said, can you plant this? And I said, sure. He says, well, go ahead. You plant this. And we ended up with them and that plaza. And then they bought two more. And we did all the work at those plazas. And he'd call up and say, yep, meet me at such and such. And okay, we're there. Okay, well, I just bought this plaza. Got some cards in your pocket. We walked on the plaza. He said, okay. He says, you got any problems? Call this guy or whatever. And then bought one across the street, and we renovated it. And he said, my decision was final and irrevocable, including him. We spent 8 months and took a big shopper store and split it into 5 places and jacked up the roof and all the rest of the stuff. In the meantime, we still had we were still doing the landscape stuff, but I had a couple of guys that were really good, and I let them go. And they're both of them have their own businesses now, and some of them are still doing customers that we had.
Wow.
They just carried on. But by the time we retired, we were doing stuff for people's grandchildren.
Yeah. That is so cool. I mean, talk about the history, and like what I'm trying to think of the word here, but a legacy that you've left. Like, you've really had an imprint on not just employees, but on clients and on people with Landscape Ontario.
Yeah, that Landscape Ontario was, it was said, just got started, and they were just getting started, and went and over, and Don Pierce, the guy I talked to before, we went to Stratford for a meeting, and so anyway, I ended up getting in the London chapter and opened my mouth one too many times. And they said, "Oh, you're the president now."
That's all you need to do in order to be a president of a chapter,
Oh,
right? You need to be able
oh.
to chat.
And it was all new and everything else. And used to do uh, mall shows. When the malls were there, you'd put a spring show on and everybody get in there. And after being past president, they needed a job for me. So I went down to the provincial board and then worked the way up through that and became president and whatnot of that. And then after that, they needed another job for past president. So our executive director at the time was a representative on farm safety. So I replaced him, and farm safety is a big deal. In that time, if they came to a meeting, their picture coming on the movie was a John Deere tractor driving in the yard with a cultivator behind it. And that went, landscape people, that went right out the window. No more. So as I worked the way up through that, they changed their tune and started to create stuff for the landscape field, and now it's one of their biggest fields.
Right.
And so with that, and then they had to find no job for me for after that. But anyway, there was a fellow in Dr. Dossman in Saskatoon. He was concerned with the problems and injuries in the agricultural field, all of it. And so he was trying to get an organization started, excuse me, and he thought Farm Safety Ontario was God's creation. So anyway, he got a bunch of people and we all met in Saskatoon in the hotel and come out at the end of that meeting as they created it and come out of that meeting as the vice president of it. We had all of 10 provinces, all the farm groups like the cattle and beef, every crop that had a thing, the research people and the medical people, all at the same table. And they're still there today.
Wow.
And so it was great. I got to go to every province in Canada and into the States. The Americans couldn't figure out what we were doing. And so they really liked us when we went down there, and they treated us like gold.
Yeah.
And how do we do this and the rest of it. And we even co-hosted one that was an international meeting with some 400 to 600 people from all over the world. And you look back on that, because when you called, I went back through some of my stuff and I wrote, holy mackerel. But so I got to go across the country and into the States and the whole 9 yards. So,
wow.
Yeah. And our whole business survived with no problem. And one of the people, or one of the, I guess, scenarios was a fellow in BC. He had a gas station. And if you wanted to, at a job interview, you went at 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, he's filling cars. And but he gave all his employees, they knew everything that was going on. And so, and he actually ended up in a motorcycle accident and he couldn't come back for something like 3 or 4 months. His business was doing better than when he left.
Wow.
And we started to put that in to our employees. If something breaks, either go get it fixed or rent it. Don't tell me at the end of the day that it broke.
Right.
And it worked that way, and we had good luck and whatnot. So anyway, that's kind of a thumbnail sketch of whatever.
Holy smokes. Yeah, it's a lot of experience and such a tapestry of different things all coming together, right? In order for this business to happen. It wasn't like you just woke up one day and you're like, oh, I'm going to own this landscaping company. It's all these little pieces that had to kind of fall in place in order for it to happen.
Well, you needed to, if you were just going to stay in that little box and not participate, you weren't going to go anywhere.
Hmm.
And I was involved in with Communities in Bloom and still am on the provincial board and the national board as advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up, St. Thomas ended up winning the world's top one for our population.
Wow.
But that was great. But we were doing a red and white or something one year, but all of the landscape guys we all knew one another and all worked. So we decided collectively, and the city had done it too, we were going to do red and white. And all the
Hmm.
industry, everybody planted red and white.
Oh, that's so cool.
And people called me up. My mother wants to get some red and white flowers. Do you know where they can get them? We cleaned out every red and white plant in London and St. Thomas.
Yeah.
But that was good, and that was the same type of thing. But you had to intertwine with the community. If you just wanted to go out and take the money, you weren't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And that was the same thing with Arbor Week and the rest of it. And but if you involved yourself in that, that's the best advertising you can have. You could spend $1 million and put your picture in the paper, and it doesn't make diddly squat difference.
Mm-hmm.
But if people see you in the community and participating in the community in a non-economic way, like you're not out there, you're putting your time in versus for it or whatever, you're putting your time in versus just, oh, well, that'll be $50. And
Right.
It works wonders.
Mm-hmm.
And even the businesses, some of them that we did, I still get the corporate discount, even though we haven't been in business for years. And we're the same people are in there. And we bought locally and we service locally. And if we wanted support, we needed to support the people in the community, because there's no sense you going to London to get your truck and then bring it to St. Thomas and you want somebody to fix it. It's not going to work.
Yep.
And so it was good, and we worked on it, and over time, one of the people we did some work for, I delivered the newspapers for years, and he was a salesman at a car dealership. So when it was time to buy a car, I went to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'd saved up enough money from my paper routes and the stuff to buy a car cash and whatnot. And then when he could no longer cut his own grass, guess who he called?
Right. There's something to be said for reciprocity.
Yeah. And my electrical teacher for high school did the same thing. When he couldn't do his own yard anymore, he called up and we did it till we retired. And even the drafting teacher called up. His daughter actually worked for us for a summer.
Holy smokes. It really is a lot about what you know, or who you know, not what you know,
Yeah.
Those connections you make, they're invaluable.
And people, you don't realize it at the time.
Right.
And that's the thing. And you don't realize that, oh well, so you did this or did that or whatever it is. And some of the things, and I got recognized. The city had gold pins. I have 3 of them for outstanding service to the city of St. Thomas. And I don't live in the city. I live in Central. Well, where I work was there.
Yeah.
But one of the things they had us do was enforce the bylaw on Talbot Street for the merchants that didn't clean their snow off in time. And I had authority to do it, and they got the bill sent to them.
Mm-hmm.
One guy told me, you can't do that. I said, you want to bet?
Yep.
So I'm going to lunch and I'll be back. And I got back there and he was like Bucky Beaver. He was shoveling that snow off like crazy, and it was clean for the rest of the time.
I bet.
So, we had that and whatnot. So I was on the downtown development board when they were creating it, and one of the guys that was in there had a flower shop, and I'd help deliver flowers for him on Easter and Christmas and that kind of stuff. So they said, well, we're looking for somebody about horticultural stuff on the street. Okay, so we ended up doing parquets for them and doing all kinds of stuff, and it was great. And best advertising in the world. Trucks parked down the street, don't have to
Yep.
pay for it. And
Wow.
they see you doing that. A couple of policemen told me I couldn't park there one day, and I said, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. I'm not moving. And I didn't.
Yep.
But so you're out there in the community and stuff like that. But again, you had to support the people
Yep.
that were in the community, and if you didn't, you weren't going. And there was a few people tried coming in, and yeah, there was one guy came in and he says, "Oh, you know what?" He says, I'm gonna put you out of business by the end of the year."
Okay.
Good, go ahead. So we went in and talked to a few of our customers, and one of them phoned up and he had the stuff on there, and he said, "Yeah," he says, "this guy was in here," and he said, "Yep." And he leave me this big piece of paper, and he said, "What he's going to do?" And he picked it up off his desk and tore it in half and said, "That's what I think of him."
Mm-hmm.
He didn't survive.
No. And we still see that to this day. I mean, especially sometimes I take for granted being a member of Landscape Ontario that I have some incredible professionals in my very close network. So if I have questions or if I'm curious about something or if I don't know the answer to something, I have it nearby. But we have, I mean, I'm in London, so I'm not too far from you, but we have every year, we've got people, brand new truck, company we've never heard of, and in a couple months, they're gone. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, I guess it's, if you're going to do it, you gotta put your heart into it, and just go around and saying, "Oh well, they're like the ones that'll come and roll your lawn every spring. Drive around at 20 minutes later, you can't find them because they're no longer there. They took the rented roller back and whatnot." But if you're just going to go out, do your stuff or whatever it is, and not participate in the community itself, then that's your that shows a lot of people that you're serious and you're not just there for the short term.
right. And that you are there to support your community, right? There's
Yeah,
something along this service above self,
yeah,
right? You're not just in it for you. You are there. You are a signature company or not a placeholder, I forget the word, but you are there in that community. You are a member of that community. You live here, you work here, and you are a part of this community. You're not just going to come in, grab the work and the money and the checks and then leave.
right. And as long if you're doing that, and don't bite off more than you can chew. And
That's a good lesson.
There was a lot of stuff that was way bigger than we could do, and we're the big landscape. Sorry, we can't do this, but go talk to this guy or this guy, whatever, and fine. And you were a bigger hero for doing that than trying to do it and then blow it and whatnot.
Yeah. Know what your strengths are. Do what you enjoy doing, what you can make profitable, and what you are good at. Right.
And when the kids were small, we worked Monday to Friday. We didn't do weekends. I wouldn't even go see somebody on the weekend. And they went, "Oh, well, I'm home." I said, "So am I." And when Sundays opened up, there was a few people that thought that, "Oh, well, you can come, I'm home." And I said, "Well, I'll come on Monday." "Well, we're not home." I said, "Well, I'm home now and I'm not coming." And which they were probably only kicking the can around the yard anyway, but you could pick those out after a while.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Real fast. But people respected that, and our kids, they were in skating and soccer and that, and that's where they were going. And now they're both professional people and doing the same with, well, one's not married, but the other one, her kids were in soccer and skating and everything else, and they're both out in the world now.
Wow, how time flies. So did you always think that you would end up doing something? Like when you were really young, did you think you would end up doing something outside or landscaping or gardening, or did it just all kind of come together this way?
Well, as I said before, started with my grandparents and having that opportunity. And if it hadn't, maybe that wouldn't have been the road I went down.
Yeah.
But I had the paper route, as I said, for years. I had the whole north side of the city for Toronto Star, so they wanted somebody to deliver the paper. They'd ask me if that's an area you can go to, and I
Huh.
could say yes or
So you had all this
no.
experience and this exposure to being outside and nature and gardening and at your grandparents' house. So it was never about being a doctor or a lawyer or working in the stock market or anything like that for you.
No, no, no.
Me
Not.
neither.
Oh well. So anyway, I hope you have a good career in the industry
I do.
and
I'm very grateful. I mean, I feel very lucky that I found it at the age of 26 because I feel like I see a lot of people who are older who still haven't found something that lights their fire. You know, they haven't found a passion or something that can get them excited to go to work every day. And I found it at 26, which I think is
yeah,
pretty awesome.
yeah, it's whatever kicks the cat at the right time, and you
Yep.
got to try some other things first just to make sure that that's what you want to do, and
Yepers.
and this and there's so many new things happening in landscaping, and the materials that are coming out, and
Hmm.
lot sizes are shrinking and getting more uh, innovative to make them look good, and be able to maintain
Absolutely.
them. And so it's not going to go away. People are always going to want plants and flowers and stuff like that. And
Oh,
but
yes.
yeah, but the
So,
biggest thing it suggests to you, and I've said this before, uh, people, I don't know whether you do maintenance or not, but you only build it once, but you maintain it forever.
right.
So if it, there's another guy here in town, he says, yeah, he says, I remember you saying that a long time ago, and he's telling his kids the same thing. And he said,
Hmm.
you build it once, but you maintain it forever.
Right.
And it gives you 26 weeks worth of work every year.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. So, I mean,
Yeah,
this is my fifth year in business now for myself as a designer. And I have, over the past 5 years, I now have four clients that I maintain their gardens for. And
yeah,
that's more than enough because I'm not looking to build a team. I don't, like I said, my work truck is a Honda Civic,
yeah,
right? So until I'm ready to or want to grow and expand, that keeps me comfortable and happy. So I can still be doing my design work. I still do a lot of subcontracting. But then I only have like four, I would say, high-end garden maintenance clients, and that is plenty.
yeah. Well, that's one a day with a
Yep.
day off in case it rains or to do
Right.
something else. Yeah,
Yeah, it's enough. And we've got their planters, so there's a whole system there too, right? So, and that's just one of the things that I do. So, but
yeah,
I like, yeah, build it once and then maintain it forever, right?
yeah.
Smart way to go.
Right on.
Um, so I've still got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
We've got about 10-ish minutes left here. I'm wondering if you have a beverage with you. If you don't drink beer, that is absolutely okay. I understand you
No,
don't.
no, I don't have anything in front of me.
So are you a coffee guy or a tea guy?
No, coffee makes me pee.
Okay. Yeah, me too. But it
That
does the job.
going back, I was on the table at a banquet, and I was sitting on the end there, and we are on a dais, so we were up higher.
Yep.
And oh well, it'll be nice. I'll have coffee at the table. Well, bingo, and people really thought I fell off the end. I had to go to the washroom. So
Oh no.
she thought, "Did you fall off?" I said, "No, I had some coffee." She, "Oh
Yep.
well, I do that." No,
Sorry, gotta run.
yeah, coffee and I don't get along.
There
But
you
anyway,
go. So is it just water for you then, or pop or iced tea? Do you have a go-to
oh
beverage?
yeah, I can of Coke usually
Coke?
every night.
Yep. Man, if I
Yeah.
have Coke before bed, I will stay up all night. The sugar and me does not get along. So
No, seems to keep me going anyway.
excellent. And being totally nosy. So some people on the podcast, they're only listening, so they don't actually see the video. But I can see it looks like there's a Fanshawe College diploma behind you.
Well, that's my wife's.
Oh,
That that's her nursing diploma.
oh, so nursing through Fanshawe. Very
Yeah,
nice.
and if I turn and then another one there,
Yep.
that's her Western one from That's her Bachelor of Arts from Western.
Okay, very cool. I actually act in the nursing program at Fanshawe Western as the standardized patient. So when they're testing the nurses and the doctors and the pharmacists, I come in as an actor pretending to be a patient, and they have to diagnose me. It's very exciting. So
as long
very
as they
random.
as long as they don't get to use a scalpel.
Not yet. There's been a couple close times where they're like, "This is fake, right?" Anyway, so there was a couple things that you said on your pre-interview questionnaire that I'd really like to get into that I just think is really cool. I know that during your time in the industry and in the profession, you were really known as a safety guy. Like this was something that played a big part for you. And was it just what you had just mentioned, how you kind of fell into that one thing and became the vice president, or was there more to this?
Well, as I said before, the industry was having all kinds of problems. Not only if the total thing, and the farm safety was and they rearranged their stuff to put landscaping in its proper perspective. And then with the coalition, seeing what was going on across Canada and whatnot, and how easy it was to fix some of the stuff. It was just, okay, take an extra minute to put your safety glasses on or do whatever.
Right.
And there was a generation that was before us that, oh, we don't care, the dust doesn't matter. And they were all the ones with lung disease. But as the equipment expanded and could do more and became more vicious, the equipment became more vicious. It took more to do it. The old real mower didn't have a motor. You couldn't cut yourself. But you had a power mower, no, it's plugged up. Oh, I'll put my hand in there and clean the grass out from underneath. And the tension's on there and it comes out, put your hands underneath still. And it took a little while to get the industry to buy into it. And once they did, then it became the normal thing to do.
Yep.
And still is the normal thing to do.
Absolutely.
And one of the things you're talking about, there was a picture on the front of the Landscape magazine that they had a guy with a cutoff saw and he was cutting bricks and he had no safety glasses or anything on.
Oh my gosh.
And that was on the front page of the book. I called Tony up and I went up one side of him and down the other. You ask him that question.
I bet I will. Next time I see him, I'm going to ask him about this.
You ask him about that, and they came back with an apology and the whole thing. And after that, there was no fooling around. That was it. And I blasted them.
Yeah.
And they listened, but that annoyed me. I said to them, you literally took 20 years worth of teaching off in 1 second.
Yep.
Oh, well, Trade Magazine puts it on the front. Why do I have to worry about it?
Yep.
Doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it was probably just a posed photo, right? It's like, oh, just stand over here with the saw and just turn it on for a second. Yeah, but put on the stuff to protect you. Like,
yeah, they'd even taken a guard off the saw or whatever so it could show up or whatever. And it was a carbide saw to cut a piece of interlocking brick. So, yeah. So anyway, I saw that one at lunchtime and Tony's phone was burning by the time he got back from lunch.
I can imagine. Wow. Well, so for all that work that you've done, I can thank you because I know my generation, we are just used to the safety protocols being the norm. And it's trained and drilled into you from the first time on a job site or first time with a company. Like these are things that are just not, they're not up for debate. You're going to wear your glasses and your ear protection and your shin guards.
Yeah, and if not,
you're going home.
Yeah. And so the industry, the injuries and that type of stuff in the industry have all gone down. Yeah. And whatnot. And then there's stuff that didn't exist 40 years ago either. Like interlocking didn't exist. So you were using patio stones or whatever, but now you do the cutting and all the rest of the stuff with it and the dust. And now there's wet saws that don't make the same kind of dust, but but there was a whole learning period in that and whatnot. one of the things that we ended up doing was there in Ontario, we got a whole thing in the agricultural area. One of the other things that there's a whole regiment now of training when new people come in the spring, and
Yep.
it's documented, and the whole thing, and it's done, and it's part of the Ministry of Labor stuff. And you have to document it, because if you do have an accident, you got to prove that I told you and showed you how to do it.
Yeah.
And you signed off that I did. And if you don't have that paperwork,
you're screwed.
You're screwed. Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
And brutal. So that was done years and years ago, and Steve Peters was the Minister of Agriculture, was also the mayor of the city, and I knew him. But Cannondale Nurseries was the the trial thing for Ontario when they came in, and they took weeks and weeks and weeks to put it all together. And their system now, and all of them, they can prove right to the second what somebody did.
Yeah.
Whether they trained and everything else. And the number of accidents have gone down, as far as I know, or at least should be. But if you haven't learned, or don't be stupid enough not to absorb it, better not mess around.
Oh yeah. I know, like my experience with Greenius, it's just been, it makes it so easy to have that initial, okay, here's the training, here's all the things that we need to do, signed off it, and then at any point you can just open the app and show, here's all the documents, here's all the training that's been done. So they've been trained on this. You can see it right here on the app. So health and safety, it's a huge part of the profession for sure.
Which 25 years ago wasn't happening. And it was like everything else. It evolved.
Yep.
And, yeah. So anyway, it's been a fun trip, and a whole bunch of things. So I did get the opportunity to see across Canada and in the States, and the Americans couldn't figure out how we did it.
Right.
They all of their stuff is usually farmed out to a university or something on a 4-year contract or whatever it is, and whatever. Oh, well, how did you guys, how'd you get the whole country from one side to the other? And it took a little bit of time, but there was a guy in Alberta who was off for a little bit of sick time, and he called me up and didn't like what was going on and hollered at me, and I hung up the phone, and when he phoned back, he said, okay. And he was in the government employee.
Whoops.
Wrong answer.
Wrong answer. Would you like to try that again?
Yeah. And but we managed to get all of that, the entire industry and the medical field and the whole thing, and the governments, provincial and federal, all on the boat, and they're still there.
Wow.
And that was was fun. But I saw a lot of Canada.
Yeah.
But our business survived because we had done the other part, and the guys knew what to do.
Right.
And whatever.
I know that's a struggle for a lot, right? You get to a point where it's like, okay, you need to empower your team to be able to run well, run efficiently without you there.
That's right.
And that's a hard step.
Well, you got to be honest with them too, because you can't be just having, I'll show up in the morning and, or 5 o'clock tonight. Oh, well, tomorrow we're going to do this, or we're not going to be able to do this, or whatever. You don't need to come in. Don't do that to them, because as an employer, you can get branded good or bad in 30 seconds. And in those days, you didn't have Facebook, but it still only took 30 seconds.
Yeah, and word travels.
Oh yeah, you don't want to work there, and whatever. So yeah, we had some people went on, school teachers, ministers, police officers, entrepreneurs. Several of them are entrepreneurs.
Very cool.
But the biggest thing is be part of the community outside of your profession. Whether it's the theater guild or whatever it is. We're both honorary life members in that.
Are you over at the Elgin Theater Guild?
Yep.
Okay, I'm actually playing Sylvia.
Are you?
Yeah, so Sylvia is the next production at the Elgin Theater Guild. We open next week.
and
Yeah.
I'm playing Sylvia the dog.
No,
So maybe
Yeah.
I'll see you in person.
well, no, I don't get to go because the boss can't go.
Oh.
But no, I got into that one when I was restarting, and when I was going to school with Toronto, we were using Bowden for the theater, and so I got the tickets printed at a place that printed theater tickets with all of the seats in Bowden.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, so they honored us years ago. Whatever. That's one of my still do jobs. I still go cut. So check the shrubs and bushes, not too closely because it's
I
winter.
will.
It's winter.
Okay. I've got rehearsal today, so I will let you know.
Okay.
So lastly, before I let you go, we are coming up to time here. But so you retired in what year was it that you retired? That
Well, 15.
2015.
Yep.
Yeah. So now that you are retired, what do your days look like? I know in your questionnaire you said you do whatever you want. What does that look like to you? Is it theater? Is it still gardening? Is it what do you do to fill your days?
Well, my wife has late stage dementia, so that's
That takes up a lot of your days.
yeah, about 22 hours of the 23, 1 hour maybe. But no, I still got some spots that I go cut. I cut the church and the theater guild and my daughter's lawn because she comes over and helps look after her mother and here and whatnot. So it that and yeah, if it happens today, it happens today, and whatever it is. And sometimes you'd love to get outside a little more, but that's life. And,
That is.
Go from there. So no, we had a good time, and we traveled all over the world, and we always took time for a vacation.
Nice. What was your favorite spot to see? I know,
Uh,
putting you on the spot. There's so many.
yeah, well, we were in St. Petersburg, Russia. We were in Rome. We were in Rome. We were in there, and we were in Istanbul, Turkey, and places around there. We Iceland, and we sailed across the Atlantic back to Boston, and stuff like that. And 3 days in the middle of the ocean, and those days there was no satellite stuff, and the ocean was as smooth as glass.
Wow.
Smooth as glass. And you think, oh, 3 days, and that 3 days, you just mellowed, and the whole thing, there was no rush. You didn't have anywhere to go other than around the ship. And other than that, I guess we stopped in Halifax first and then went to Boston. But it's that, and then you got back at land. But no, there was no television because there was no nothing like that. So you
Love it.
Or just sit there and let the world go by. And it was beautiful sunny weather and nice weather and the whole thing. So yeah, so we were able to do that, and then through the Panama Canal and into Los Angeles and whatever, and across the country besides. So
now I want to go on a cruise. Thanks so much. I'm actually an RV girl. So my best friend and I, we do a lot of traveling in the RV because she gets seasick. So we won't be going on a boat anytime soon.
But always take time for yourself, regardless. And tomorrow is always time to do it.
There's always time tomorrow.
Yeah. Don't stress, you strain yourself out, you know your limit, and don't let anybody push you past it. You'll know if you need to take another step.
Yeah.
And you'll know when to take the step. Just don't push it because you can only do so much, and do it well.
Absolutely. One of the favorite things that I hear is that you like someone can eat a whole elephant, but not all at once.
That's right.
One bite at a time, right?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
And make sure it's not too big an elephant.
Yeah. That's true. Sometimes it's time to say, no, actually, no. Bob, it's been absolutely amazing getting to know you a little bit virtually. I thank you again so much for coming on the show, giving me a little bit of insight into your life and your career and all the legacy that you've left in our industry or profession with Landscape Ontario. So I really do want to thank you again for all you've done and all you do.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Bob. We will be in touch.
Okay.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers.
That concludes this week's episode, hosted by me, Heather Gerard at My Landscape Artist. Now, before you go, here's some info about our sponsor, ext.tech. In today's fast-paced world, your landscaping business needs modern solutions to keep up with the change. That's where EXT comes in. EXT is revolutionizing the way you manage projects and streamlines your landscaping, snow removal, and construction operations. Instead of juggling 5 different software packages, endless spreadsheets, losing track of leads, and missing out on potential sales, you could be leveraging AI job routing, client management, and financial insights with a modern mobile app that employees love to use. With EXT's flat rate pricing, you'll never be caught off guard. If you're ready to revolutionize and grow your landscaping business, visit ext.tech today to learn more. And for additional savings, use the code HOPS10 at checkout, or just tell them that Heather sent you. See you next week for another episode of Hops and Hedges.